Now there's a couple of us, quite a few of us actually, are there. So if you could send to the info at Zygotes Calgary, then it goes to everyone in the chapter.
Roxanne, can I ask you a question? A quick question.
Sure. Anything.
Yes. What do you know about the UN's funding of the Venus project?
It's news to me.
Douglas Millet is right now lobbying for United Nations funding of the Venus project.
We have made personal contacts with some people who are in the UN, but those things are not definite yet. It's not even really something I've mentioned before. But I don't think it's what you're talking about because it's really not out there. Nothing's been mentioned.
But Jack knew all those people on the UN back in the 60s, or not?
No, he was never associated with the UN.
He wrote a book called Looking Forward with Ken Keyes, and he was very close to the UN.
For the 35 years that I've been with him, he's never talked about any association with the UN. I've never heard of Ken being associated with the UN. He may have, but not that I know of.
Well, the film Zygotes Addendum was premiered in the Artivist Film Festival, and it is endorsed by the United Nations.
We were at the film festival with the opening of Zygotes Addendum. I really don't know if they're endorsed by the UN. They may be, but we have no affiliation with the UN. Jacques has never addressed the UN, and we don't have any contact with them. We have made personal contacts with some people who are in the UN.
Okay, what's your take on Jack Fresco's visit to Mikhail Gorbachev Foundation?
I wrote about that on my blog. On our website, thevenusproject.com, you can look at the blog for the Netherlands. I mentioned that.
But do you believe it's good to be associated with those people from the Club of Budapest, Ervin Laszlo, and all of those folks?
I can't. Any way that we can get the word out, anybody who's interested in this direction, we spent time with Laszlo. He didn't seem to have much interest, didn't seem to have much inquiry, so I don't know what to say about that. If he was interested, we didn't hear about it. But, I think it's good to be able to talk to anybody about it. We would very much like to have an audience with Gorbachev. We were sorry he wasn't at that event that day. We were hoping he would be, but the last minute they said that he didn't show up, so we were looking forward to maybe meeting with him, but that didn't happen.
How was Jack invited to that meeting?
We had the lecture in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven, and it was the weekend of the 10th anniversary of the Charter from the UN, the Earth Charter, and Jacques spoke at a business, I guess kind of a gathering from the Charter in Eindhoven as well, and Laszlo was a speaker there too. Jacques has never addressed the UN. And the people who spoke at that event were invited to the dinner and the day-long event in the palace, in the Queen's Palace, for the Earth Charter. So we spent the day there and the evening having dinner, and I wrote about that experience on the blog. It was quite interesting.
So Jack did have connections to the UN?
Well, I wouldn't say we had connections with the UN at all. The Earth Charter was associated with the UN, and because Jacques he was invited to speak at this other event in Eindhoven, then he was invited, we were both invited to that day with the Earth Charter. So, I didn't think about that when somebody asked about whether we were associated with the UN. We were associated just in that way, but we really don't have anything to do with the UN or the Earth Charter. We just happened to be invited to that dinner because Jacques was invited to speak at an event that was somehow put on by the UN or associated in some way with the UN. I'm not exactly sure how, in fact, because it was kind of a group that was working for the UN, that not directly associated.
And it gives me the chance to congratulate the two men who were the driving force behind it, Stephen C. Rockefeller and Mikhail Gorbachev.